What we're trying to do is invest with a lifestyle in mind. And what we're going to be doing today is sharing the framework that we have followed. We're going to share a few kind of vulnerable stories, which isn't something we normally do, but let's take you on that journey. Okay, so as Daniel said, we did this in January. It was called Fix 26. And since then, we've kind of refined it a little bit more. And as we move into this new cycle, we now have a 7-step process that we can work through that kind of brings awareness to what we're doing. But ultimately, we're in the middle of the year. It's June. A bunch of people set some goals in January, and
Hopefully.
resolutions as they are then kind of like sort of fade. 64% of people have stopped by the end of January, 80% by mid-February. Only 6% make it to the end of the year. So we don't sort of like the idea of New Year's resolutions. We need frameworks, and we need different ways of reflecting on what worked and projecting what we want to happen, and try and marry those things together. The thing that gets in the way ultimately is us. So what we're going to go through is just kind of go back to the future, a little bit of fun, build a bit of participation. We're going to explain what those 7 steps are. We're going to really hone down on what the one thing is, tell you a few stories along the way, and then we're going to let you know how to use those 7 steps in your life as you go forward. Okay.
Now, I've taken a quick look at the cameras. Obviously, we're not in a judgmental community, but I'm pretty confident you're all going to remember 20 years ago. I don't believe, based on observation, that someone will say I wasn't born. But if you were born, then you can tell us your embryonic experience. But here are a snapshot of around the world of some of the crazy things that happened 20 years ago. So just take a little time to just digest a few of those. See which one's your picker.
And as you're going along, let us know how old you were in 2006. Where were you? What were you doing? And what were you dreaming at that time, right? 20 years goes in the flash when you kind of look at some of these things here. We've got Saddam Hussein met his sticky end in Iraq after the sort of Iraq conflict. The World Cup was on, and that was Zidane headbutting someone I think it was in the final of the World Cup. Google bought YouTube, which was still in its infancy then. Twitter was launching, and our good friend from the Aussie side of the world, Steve Irwin, also got he died during what he was doing what he loved, let's say.
Yeah. So I'll put also in the chat what I'm really curious about. That's now you've put your age. What was important for you? So for me at 21, I was about to go traveling around the world. First time ever really experiencing something like that. So what was the key thing that you were going through? And I can't believe like back then as well. I mean, that's just when Twitter starts and YouTube is nothing. This was a big deal back then, and people thought that Google were crazy for buying YouTube.
Okay, well, make a mental note as we kind of move through. Let's keep
Yeah.
going.
You say that one, Rich.
So, yeah, so in that 20 years, what's happened? The device in your pocket has become the world. The iPhone came out sort of 2006, 2007. So smartphones have gone from the gadget, the way, and to the way everyone communicates. Ownership has become access. This has been a gradual thing that not so many people have kind of noticed. But we're renting everything, right? We don't own anything anymore. So the kind of the rental of Airbnb, Uber, Spotify, kind of Netflix, you don't own anything anymore. You're kind of renting it. Obviously, we had the great financial crisis of 2008, which our friend Bitcoin was birthed. And the climate, the green question has really kind of grown in that time to become such a prevalent part of our life. Social fabric has been rewired by algorithms from Facebook to Instagram, Snapchat. And it's a fundamental change in the way people get their news and measure their own lives and compete for attention, which is something we'll talk about a little bit more. And obviously, the big thing that everyone remembers from 6 years ago was the world faced a reset as we all ended up in lockdown.
So speaking of that reset, 2020 introspection, there's actually a couple of big headlines in 2020, but I'll be honest, when you look at major news for that year, it's not the most inspiring year that we've ever had. So between lockdowns, huge fire in Australia, you have Biden beats Trump, which fair enough for Americans will be a 50-50 probably viewpoint of whether that's good or bad. And in our wonderful Britain, 2020 is when the whole Brexit stuff actually, what would be the right word there, Rich? Ratified?
Came into, yeah.
Yeah, a new dawn for Britain. Well, again, we won't comment on where that's taken things to.
Oh,
But the point is, a couple of people, big people died. And then obviously with COVID, you had massive economic turmoil as well at the same time, which is this stuff that's just in the middle here. So it was a powerful year.
I think the thing is to remember as well is I remember lots of people saying in lockdown when they had time, when they had space, when they had time with their family, when they were when life narrowed to a focus, people said they were going to create some sort of big change in their life. And it was things like, I'm never going to go back to the office. I'm going to move country. I'm going to spend more time with my kids. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to look for a different job. I'm going to start my own business. And the question is, how many people actually kind of followed through with that? What did they actually do? So interested as well. Was there something that maybe you said you were going to do during that time that maybe sort of fell into the wayside a little bit? Or did you sort of manage to execute on your dreams? But the same thing, right? It was only 6 years ago.
Yeah. I can actually, I was in the UK for that first lockdown. I don't know if we've got a couple of people from the UK here, and all I remember was the sky being super blue and wondering, I wonder if airplanes make a difference or not. And just remembering the peace. That was the first one for me, and I wanted more of it. That was really, really palpable for me at that time.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, moving on.
So definitely put in the chat, guys. I'm curious what it meant for you at that time. So then we move into 2023. So what's that? 3 years ago, give or take, 3.5 years ago. And it's an important one. You may have been aware of it, you might not. And I do appreciate, of course, it says December 2022. Technically, GPT launched in late 2022, but it was 2023 when the hysteria started to come. So put a 1 in the chat if you remember the early stage hysteria. I remember the very first time I did it, I got it to write a poem. I was with my partner's parents and we were blown away. I was like, write me a poem about 4 random people. They'd come to Mexico to visit us. So it was a big thing. Maybe not everyone started using it, but that was in 2023. All right. So 1, if you remember that. 2, if you're oblivious to it. And at some point, AI came on your field. The reason this is important is because this moves us to last week. All right. You can see the timeline at the top there. Twice we've got COVID and everything that happened in 2020, 2023, and then last week, Fable 5 and Mythos. Well, technically 2 weeks ago. And to put this in context, Fable 5 and Mythos, which were released by Anthropic, lasted 5 days approximately. That's how many days they were before they got completely banned globally. And I mean like full on banned. You can't, there are 11 companies or entities that are able to use Mythos at the minute. And the American government, basically based on a 224 report that Anthropic released, deemed this one of the most powerful. What this thing was able to do in the space of a day is insane. And this call isn't for going through that. You can research it and take a look for yourself. But the point is the progression from, can you write me a poem about 4 of us, to an entire government globally banning a product because it is far too powerful for humanity, but they can use it. Or some companies can, is an insane amount of progress, which takes us to this.
So if we think back to 5-6 years, and we'll say why that's important in a moment. But if you think in only 3 years that a lot of people are integrating and using AI in their lives, we did a whole workshop on it, right? Where we took you guys through it about how to integrate it. The next 5 years is likely to go extremely fast and is going to have a lot of change, from AI to people saying it's going to destroy 90% of jobs, to SpaceX launching data centers in space, to, the singularity in terms of what Ray Kurzweil says is going to happen. And if you make it to 2029, then you might just live forever, right? Because of the things that are going to happen and things that are going to change. So it's going to, if you think that last 5-6 years is almost immeasurably different, then the next 5 years is going to feel like the next 20 years, which is why we did that. So what would you do if the next 5 years had more change in it than the last 20, right? And think how far it's come. Think of all the different things that have happened, and maybe you're a different person, maybe the same person, but the world is changing around us as we move through these different cycles.
And so the point of all this is not to come at this from a scary perspective. There's some, like slide before, there's some wonderful things. When you look at the advancement of medicine, various other fields, it's just to show how much time is changing for us all. When we think about how long all that other change took from the 2006 straight through to where we are today. And we're in this space where we can do something. And the reality is the vast majority of the population take 5 to 6 years to take action on something they know they already want to do. When later on, when I'll share my story, mine took about 7 or 8 years. The point is, inside of us, we know what it is often that we want to make. And so when you look back at 2020, at some point in COVID, did you say to yourself, or were you able to look and reflect differently to say, I'm not happy about something, or I want to do something, or a dream came through, or it might have been spurred on by a problem. Doesn't matter which one it comes from. But what was that for yourself? And ultimately, the question, like we started 20 years ago, is the best time to plant a tree. Second best time today. So maybe now is that time to start to consider and look at that, because over the next 5 years, it's only going to get more and more bonkers.
Yeah. 80-20 rule. If you don't know that, we talk about it a lot, but 80-20 rule kind of flows through everything in terms of life. And 80% of people generally are regretting a life that they aren't living yet, or there's something they're dissatisfied, right? And 84% of people are disengaged from their work, and that's the place they spend most of their working hours. So that activity is defining their identity. This is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and 80% of people in the planet are living with chronic economic fragility, insecurity, and instability. And 87% of people kind of drifted into their life without kind of designing it. And the top 5 regrets of the dying, which is worth reading, I recommend it to everybody, is 84% of people regretted things they didn't do versus only 16% of the things that they did do, right? So when you kind of extrapolate over time, then more people regret not doing something than actually taking action and dealing with the consequences of it.
It sounds like a morbid book as well. It's a really inspiring book of a woman that held
Super
the hand of
inspiring.
people at their deathbed. Really, really is a beautiful book. And the reality, when we start to look at wealth, opportunity, and freedom around the world, how it is today, you would think that, well, the more free and the more wealthy of a country I live in, well, the happier I will be. Well, that is not what necessarily the stats show. So when we start to bring wealth, freedom, and all of these aspirational aspects into things, whereby all of our options open, actually anxiety, depression, and parallel feelings start to rise. So that chart below shows you the countries with the greatest amounts of anxiety and depression, and the green ones are ones which we will consider high income, freedom, open countries. So we're in a diametrically opposed view that that's not necessarily the case.
Point being that when everything seems possible and you've got all these choices, it actually makes harder to actually make one, right? Because you're never sure if you're making the right one. And we talk about this a lot. Normal is broken. If most people are living what everyone else is doing, so we would define that as normal. So that's basically, virtually all of us, right? But if that was the case and that was the way, then everyone wouldn't be desiring the sort of change. They wouldn't have this kind of world weariness that something needs to be different. And so what we're trying to say is, ultimately, it doesn't pay to be normal, right? Don't be the part of the 80% normality. And we have to sort of make some hard choices for an easier life. And the easy choices that face us today, quite often, if we're not careful, have consequences, and they create that hard life. So we're going to walk you through the way we see things work. And our program is called Next Chapter. If you're in Sovereign Soul, you're aware of that. And our job is to close the gap between the life you've accumulated, some way by accident, or some of the way you've sort of been conditioned, and between the life you'd actually choose before the world chooses for you. Because we're basically showing the world is speeding up. It's giving you less and less time. All right.
There's a ton of models that are out there, all models and frameworks. We need them to move through things. For me and Rich, we've been working in Sovereign Soul now for 4 years, and about doing what we do. Even Sovereign Soul was birthed on the back of what we've been doing for the last 20 years in and around business, crypto, support. I've been coaching and helping for more than a decade and a half. And so this kind of came together from all the work we've done and the thousands of hours of calls with all the members. And we started with finance. It was all around getting clear around where you are, and everyone, the ability to track your numbers and know where you're at makes a big difference. Time then started to come up because members, we realized it wasn't all about money, but time was a really, really big one. And then decisions. People knew what they had to do, but nobody was able to make that decision. And we were like, why aren't people actually stepping forward? Why are they not grabbing the thing that they want and doing something about it? Well, usually because of their environment. Something along the lines, along the journey of this is just not, it's not supporting them. Something's holding them in rather than pulling them up. And then that starts to bring in the relationship, like those people that are closest to us, because environment can also mean the local surroundings that you are in as well. On top of that, when this happens at any single stage, we just do too much. And the whole point, this call you're on is the one thing, 1 year workshop. It doesn't mean you can't do two things, but if you focus on doing one thing, you will achieve it. And then last of all, as it came through, when all of this is happening, was you could consider this your why. You could consider this the thing that's maybe your passion or harmony, but it's this quintessential thing. I've met so many people that have made millions of dollars and are still not happy, which means it's not about time and it's not about money. It's all of these things. And so our assessment tool kind of looks at all of these. You can see the little spider diagram in the middle and starts to help you see, all right, these are the areas to focus on because these are the ones that are blocking you from moving forward. They all line up for this call into 7 different areas. Now, given the time that we've got, we do want to make sure we go through them. We might skip a couple or briefly go over them because we try and keep our time to the allotted time. And they, as I said, there's tons of frameworks. So I've always been a big fan of Robbins' 6 human needs. And so what you'll find is if you're not familiar with them, you have certainty and uncertainty. We always need a bit of that, dependent on who you are. If you're sorry to stereotype, but if you're the stereotypical accountant, you want things to be certain, maybe more so than if you're a freelance photographer who wants that variety, that uncertainty in life. We all crave a certain amount of significance. We want to feel important, special. And at the same time, we want to feel connected to others and a sense of belonging. And these are the needs of the personality. You can do these every single day. You'll do them naturally and you'll ebb and flow and flick between them all. But the needs of the spirit, the needs of the soul, these you can go your whole life and not miss. Sorry, you can go your whole life and miss. And that is the sensation to grow and to expand. And then the second one is contribution, to feel a sense of something, a belonging to something greater than yourself. And these are 6 basic needs that Robbins goes through. And so what we did was we mapped all of those over our 7 different
reinforce
vectors.
The framework.
Yeah,
to reinforce the framework and to show you there's a method in the way we approach it, because we all love all the different models and they kind of always overlap. And this is how we see them overlapping.